I woke up one morning and my truck was covered with more bees than usual, so I ran outside in my pajamas to see what was going on. A swarm of bees that I caught the night before was leaving their hive and swarming again. I tried to offer their new hive back to them, but they weren't moving in very quickly, which told me that they wanted to go somewhere else. It was a race between me and the bees. I had to find the queen before the bees found a place to fly off to. After a few minutes, I found her. I put her in a clip to keep her safe, but before I could put her in the new hive, I had bees swarming to her in my hand. As soon as I put the queen in the hive, the bees began to go right in. I still had some bees on my hand who weren't leaving because they could still smell their queen on me. So I shook them off so they could find her. Within minutes, the entire colony was rushing to get back into their new hive. You can see how fast they were moving and how the queen was covered in bees. I waited for all the bees to get into their hive, and it was another great day of saving the bees in my pajamas. Bees had been living in this backyard shed for at least 2 years. The landlord wanted to call an exterminator, but the family who lived here wanted to save the bees, so they called me. When I lifted up the floor, I found a huge hive full of gentle bees. The hive was so big I had to remove another section of floor to access the entire thing. Then I started removing the hive. Whatever I removed from the original hive went right into the new one so the bees would have everything they need to survive. After I removed all of the comb, I started scooping bees into the new hive. As soon as I put the bees by the new hive, they marched right in. Then a stream of bees began running out from under the floor into the new hive. So I waited and watched to see if I could spot the queen bee in the crowd. After about 15 minutes, she appeared, so I put her in a clip to keep her safe. Once the queen was in the new hive, some bees began sending signals to help the other bees find their way home. I left the hive overnight, and by the next day, the entire colony was in their new home, and it was another great day of saving the bees. I got a call to remove a colony of bees from this tree at superstar Jason Derulo's house, and here's how it went.
Let's say the bees.
We started to remove bees and comb from the tree. The bees were very gentle and were not trying to sting us.
Sting me? Oh.
She's not gonna sting you.
Oh,
You're okay.
she's
You're
coming.
okay.
The bees had a ton of extra honey, so everyone ate some fresh honey straight from the hive.
It's on my face. Yeah. That is good, nice and warm. It is pretty crazy. It's a lot different than the honey we get in the jars. Man, it's so good. We need a bagel.
Jason even took off his veil and ate some honeycomb.
Insane.
After we removed as much comb as we could, we waited for the bees to get into their new hive so they could be relocated to the Bee Leaf USA Bee Sanctuary, and it was another great day of saving the bees. This bee was outside the hive on a cold winter day. She wasn't moving, so I picked her up and I put her in my hands. I gave her a few breaths of warm air, and I waited as the heat from my breath and from my hands warmed her body. Honeybees survived the winter by clustering together inside the hive to keep themselves and their queen warm. But when a bee gets too cold like this one did, they become paralyzed and they enter a sort of chill coma. During this state, they lower their body temperature and metabolic rate to survive the cold without food. If a bee stays too cold or in this state of paralysis for too long, it can die. But if the bee is able to warm up like this one did, movement will slowly start to return to its body and it can survive. Once this bee was able to walk, I put her back where I found her, and she returned to the warmth and safety of her colony.